What is going on, guys, and welcome to Gaming HQ. So, in this video I will attempt to explain the lore behind the Medium, my first horror game by the way, clearly and concisely so that it would be interesting even if you have never seen or played the game yourself. Well, here goes nothing. Alright, so here's the deal. Before we go in too deep into the story, I need to tell you a little bit about each character so that we can put all the pieces of the puzzles together. I think this will make the explanation process a lot easier to understand because man oh man, there's a lot to cover. And this story is messed up and I love it. So let's start with the main character, the protagonist Marianne, whose mother died giving birth to her. And like her father, Thomas, and older sister, Liliane, who is also known as Lily and Sadness, she is a medium, and by the way, mediums are the people who live in both the real and the spiritual world. And they can communicate with the dead. They can also see spirits, inner demons, souls, etc. I'll also include that Marianne is the only character in the story who is in the perfect control of herself in the spirit world. It is so perfect that they can practically exist in the same plane of space and time simultaneously, but with different realities, of course. The game consistently refers to Marianne as a butterfly, which is a symbol for resurrection, endurance, hope, and life. Her older sister Liliane is the most powerful medium. She is a miserable character in the game that can't control her power at all, leaving Thomas, her father, scared of what she might become or do in the future, thus locking her in a bunker. She has double identities, Liliane from the real world and Sadness from the spiritual world. Both identities share the same soul, so if one dies, so does the other, but they do act as different people and therefore live as separate people. She's also the shell that is keeping the maw from vanishing after she released him. Now let's move on to their father, Thomas, who is also a medium by the way. Just like Liliane, he has two separate identities and is not in control of his spiritual identity. Thomas is recommended by his old friend Richard, a very famous painter and an important character in the story, to design the building where our gameplay takes place, the Niwa Resort. A place that is shut down by the government due to the massacre that is caused by something. Of course, Thomas knows exactly the thing that caused the brutal massacre, and that thing is the Maw, a creature or an angry spirit that was released into the wild by Liliane in order to save herself and her little sister from their home that was set by fire by a character named Henry. This creature was born from all the negative emotions of humans, anger, sorrow, regret, jealousy, hate, and so on. The Maw was constantly looking for a suitable host to wear, as he calls it, so that he can live out his serial killer fantasies in the real world. He can possess every living creature, including animals. The only problem is that they don't last much before they explode or vanish due to his negative emotions. That is, till he finds Marianne. And Richard, Thomas's old friend, lost his father from a very young age during the war with the Nazis, causing his mother to remarry. To his misfortune, his stepdad turned out to be a sicko who physically abused Richard when he was still a very young boy, shortly after his father died. As a child, the only person that kept him from going insane was his childhood friend Rose. They both ate and played together outside their homes in the garden to forget about everything. That was the case at least until his stepdad reported Rose, who was a Jewish girl by the way, hiding in their neighbor's basement, to the Nazis for a reward. When Richard and his mother found out about this, they turned him in to be hanged while Richard slowly watched his dad's final hour. These events ending up having severe mental trauma, and they affect the story later on. Henry suffered from a bloody childhood from his extremely abusive and violent father. Here's a little about his childhood.
Don't you hide from me! Come here!
Henry grows up to becoming a special private investigator for the Nazis and becomes obsessed with investigating Thomas's powers as a medium. So obsessed that he turned Thomas's house on fire with his two children inside of it. Now I hope that was too much to take in. I mean, otherwise, you might just be a superhuman if you could just get all that in so quick. Now, it's time to tell the story and kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So Marianne's story starts off when she was saved from her burning home by Liliane, who agreed to set the mole free and use his power to save both of them. Thomas rushes Marianne to the hospital due to her second-degree burns while taking Liliane to the bunker that is hidden underneath Niwa Resort. Thomas locks Liliane in the bunker after he discovers that the monster that was inside of her is set free. This will help keep this creature contained for the time being at least. While all of that was happening, Marianne was moving from one orphanage to the next since all the kids thought she was a weirdo and scary. She, on the other hand, thought her power was normal since there was no one to tell her otherwise. Finally, after moving around so much, she was taken in by her foster father, Jack, who runs a funeral home, thus making him used to talk about afterlife, death, spirits, and such. One day, however, Jack passes away after she sent his soul to the afterlife. She receives a call from a mysterious man, Thomas. During that conversation, Thomas specifically mentioned that Marianne is the only one who can stop it, without really explaining what it was. Curious about who that was and how he knows her identity as a medium, as well as her missing history, she quickly becomes curious about her own identity and travels to Niwa Resorts where the majority of the story takes place. There she first meets a spirit, Sadness, Liliane's 10-year-old personality who was born after she was molested by Richard. By the way, Richard found out about Liliane in the bunker when he was invited by Thomas, his old pal, in the resort due to his career troubles at the time. Due to this incident, the Maw only grew in hatred toward Richard and was later brutally murdered when the Maw took over his nurse's body. Unfortunately, everyone in the resort was murdered afterwards, causing the resort to shut down and for Thomas to call Marianne to stop it. Because of this, Sadness does not allow Marianne to send her soul or spirit to the afterlife. She knows that if that were to happen, the Maw will be free, with nothing to contain it. When Marianne investigates further, she found out about the Maw, and the Maw finds his perfect shell. He runs after Marianne in order to wear her and escape from the resort. On Marianne's journey to find out about the truth of her past, her sister's whereabouts, Sadness's identity, the man on the phone, Richard, Henry, all while dealing with this creature. She later finds out that Sadness is her sister's spirit. Richard turned out to be a lunatic and was turned into a giant gluten after Thomas shattered the last piece of humanity that was left in him. Out of rage when he found out what he had done to his daughter, Marianne also found out that Henry is the man that set her home on fire, causing this whole mess with the Maw and the shutdown of the resort. She saved her father's spirits, who was trapped for decades inside Henry's mind, while trying to free him. At the end, she receives a vision showing her her sister's whereabouts. She gets worried when she finds out that her sister, whom she loved dearly even though she barely knew her, was looking lifeless. You can tell what she was up to by the cuts and bandages covering her hands. Liliane proceeds to hand over a gun to her younger sister, asking her to end it all and stop the Maw once and for all. Marianne ends up refusing and threatens the Maw by pointing the gun to her head, resulting in the creature to realize what she was about to do and retreats since she was his only suitable host. Just when she remembers something, Spirit Thomas says, "You can't save everyone, Butterfly." We quickly hear gunshots afterwards and the screen goes dark. So now, here's the question. Who fired that gunshot? Truth is, we will never really know, but we can make assumptions. Unfortunately, if I had to bet everything, I would say she fired her sister. In a way, she also ended the misery her sister was in. Liliane's power wasn't a blessing like it was for her sister Marianne, but a curse. As sad as it is, that was most likely the best option in this scenario. Oh man, I hope I made that sound dramatic enough. There was also actually a very important scene that happened at the end. We see a man picking up Thomas's watch. Now, for those who know me, I hate watches in horror games. It always reminds me of an infinite, never-ending loop. And I believe this is the case in this story as well. I mean, think about it. The story is a psychological horror. And what is a more messed up way to present it than to put a miserable character over constant struggle over and over and over again? This was the case for Liliane. She never had a happy ending in any lifetime she was in. There was always that person that made sure she lived a terrible life. This is the man that picked up the watch at the end of the story. At least, that's what I believe. By the way, he is also the man that was firing a gun at her in the same location before the game even starts. He's the same person. Imagine that. I don't know what Liliane has ever done to him, or maybe that is the Maw himself from a different timeline, but that person seemed to be always haunting her no matter what timeline she is in. At least, that is my theory. Whew, man, that was a lot, wasn't it? This story was something extraordinary, and that's for sure. Bloopers have done an undeniably amazing job with writing this story. Well done, Bloopers, and I am personally looking forward to more games from them in the future. I wish you all enjoyed this explanation, but of course not because of the context, but because of the presentation. Thank you all for watching, and have sweet nightmares like I did. Love you too!